You didn't want to be in the video?
Welcome to the Vaporfly.
Yes, the Vaporfly. You'll notice the scotch tape on the microphones because we spent all our money on the shoes. So we wanted to follow up with I guess we did a little CBC Ottawa interview on the Vaporfly, why we weren't carrying it in store, what our thoughts were on this shoe, I guess. And I thought the best way to kind of dig into this in depth would be to talk to somebody who has actually used this shoe. So Stephen Andersen, our running ambassador for Sports4 Bank Street, has a pair of these beauties because that's what he spends his money on.
It's the original version. It's not as expensive as the current ones.
It's still expensive, you know.
I think there's three main components that make this shoe as fast as it is. Number one is they're trying to go as light as possible. So this shoe is probably the lightest shoe on the market, and it's because it's got a track spike upper. So that means the upper isn't as thick and isn't as durable as what you would normally get in your typical trainer. The second one, and this is the one that everyone's talking about, is there's a carbon plate that cuts through the shoe at about here, where just under where that black line is.
Feel it there.
And that carbon plate provides a lot of rigidity to the shoe.
Right.
But in my mind, the big, and to a lot of pros too, is the biggest benefit to this shoe is the foam underneath of it. So you'll notice this big, thick white pad there, and that is a 30 millimeter, which is larger than the average shoe. It's a 30 millimeter midsole, and that provides you a lot of cushioning. And it's not your typical cushioning. Like, I can really squeeze this, and it's like running on a sponge. So the carbon plate provides the rigidity, and the sponge provides that feel and the responsiveness into the road, and it saves a lot of energy because it's just easy on your legs.
Yeah, so I mean, you're getting a lot less toe flexion here. There's anything that would expend energy, this shoe is kind of dealt with. I mean, even for the lightweight nature of this upper, this is a pretty robust knit material too. This is actually pretty good quality stuff. Like, this isn't going to be something that I think you would even break down prematurely, even compared to some other meshes. This is pretty darn good. But ZoomX, which is Nike's kind of rock star cushioning system in this, is something called TPE, thermoplastic elastomer cushioning system, I believe it's called. And it has a lot of the similar energy return properties that polyurethane systems like the DNA Amp from Brooks or the Adidas Boost will have, except it's way lighter, and it is a little bit more consistent, I believe, with the energy return. So now, like, all these brands are jumping on this wagon to try to catch up with this shoe. So this is the pack leader right now.
Yeah, so this is the Vaporfly 4%, and Nike last year released the Vaporfly Next %, which is the pink and green ones you see on TV all the time. They are coming out in July with another version of this called the Alphafly Next %.
Yeah, and the Alphafly, I think, was previously the shoe that broke the 2-hour barrier for the marathon record. However, the prototype that was used is now not competition legal, so they have to trim things down so that the Alphafly that we release will be sitting at a 40 mil stack.
Yeah.
So if you thought this was pretty big, you're going to go about 10 millimeters more, and that's pretty significant for a running shoe.
I purchased these shoes before my fall marathon in 2019, and my first impression when I put them on, I was like, whoa, I'm walking on clouds. So when I mean that, it was like, compared to your normal shoe, you have a lot of sponge. So I felt like this is, like, I can see, like, I can almost feel myself bouncing as I walk, right? So when I put them on for my first workout, my first 3K was a little awkward because the shoe is very different than your normal shoe. It's got the carbon plate, so you're really rigid, and you have lots of foam, so you're landing in a different spot on your foot. And so the first 3K was really weird. But as I got going, you can feel yourself through the workout that you're not fatiguing as quickly. In terms of the marathon itself, the marathon was slightly downhill. So what this did was the foam really helped absorb a lot of the shock that you'd normally feel at your typical Boston Marathon or even New York, where you're going over a lot of hills. So it's key in that regard. And yeah, my personal experience, I really love the shoe. And I will continue to wear it for all of my races.
And I think it's important to note too, we're not saying that other foams don't return energy, okay? So all foam compounds in running shoes will return energy to some degree. But like we illustrated with the Adidas Boost example and then the ZoomX example, different foams return different energy and at different rates. So not to say that the other shoes will not give you an energy return. It's just that this shoe will allow you to kind of get a lot more return for your buck. So for what you're putting in, and give it to you consistently throughout that race, where some shoes will start to return less the longer you use them. We are going to segue that into the question we received by Hallie Cotnam at CBC, and she asked, why don't we carry the Vaporfly in our store? And I think there's a couple reasons for that, but my summary version is going to be that I don't think that the majority of the customers we serve on a regular basis will be A, looking for this shoe, or B, require this shoe for the kind of training that they are doing. What did this end up retailing at? This shoe is like $300.
This was $330.
$330. So I want you to put yourself in this position right now. As let's say you're just an average runner. You're not somebody who's shattering like marathon records. You're just going out for your 3 runs a week, maybe 4 runs a week. Do you think that you're going to drop $330 plus tax on a shoe that lasts how long? How many races would this last you?
I would say with like this, the first version is going to last about 250 kilometers, 200 kilometers. The newer model, the Nike Next Percent, is going to last, say, 350.
Yeah. So for a lot of runners, that is very short lifetime for a shoe that costs that much. And if from our perspective, our services are fitting first, so fit and then function for what you are doing in your day-to-day fitness routine. Can I justify pushing this shoe on you if you are not sitting there on the cusp? First of all, like not to discount any of the training that a lot of people are doing day-to-day. I think that some people just getting out and running, period, is a huge achievement. But for me to sit there and say that you need a $330 shoe, I think I find that very hard to do.
I agree with Nate. I think for the average runner who's looking to run an hour for 10K or even 4 hours for the marathon, this shoe probably isn't worth the bang for your buck. I think it depends on your running economy. It actually depends on your running economy. But for the most part, you're not going to get the giant improvements that you want with this shoe, right? Like this shoe is for Boston Marathon qualifiers and slightly faster, and you're just not going to get the mileage out of it that's worth, or to make it worth your while.
So there's also something to be said about this 4% increase. So the reason they call it the Vaporfly 4% was because on average with the elite athletes that they were testing, there was a 4% increase, or 4% improvement in energy expenditure. So that we have to remember in context is with elite athletes over the course of a marathon. So if we're not running longer distances, we don't see that improvement translate as well. So into shorter distances like 5Ks and whatnot, you're not going to see like leaps and bounds of improvement. You see that over the course of a longer race. Also, we're talking about athletes that are very efficient in their own energy expenditures. So these are people that have trained their bodies. They know the running game inside and out. They are very efficient with the worst pair of shoes they could put on their feet, let alone with the kind of premium model like we're seeing here.
In terms of my thoughts on whether you should carry something or something like this, I think for a runner like me, I would come in here and buy this shoe, but I understand why you don't carry it, considering the majority of your runners are people who are coming out and wanting to just pick up the sport to begin with, or want to use them for walking shoes. There are other models beyond this, and I think we may get to that later, but Saucony and Brooks also have a model at a significantly lower price point and with higher durability that I'm considering moving into for myself, especially the Saucony one. So for me, like, even I'm going to have a hard time justifying purchasing another Nike version of this shoe.
So I guess the final topic we're going to touch on for this shoe, because a lot of controversy has kind of come up because of it, is the idea of technological doping and the idea that this shoe may be unfair. I may not be the same caliber of runner as Steven, but as somebody who competes in sports that require supportive gear in some instances to achieve great feats, I have to disagree with the idea that this is cheating or this is some kind of unfair advantage. You know what? The equipment is often only as good as the person behind it. In my case, as a competitive powerlifter, that would be like me saying, or people saying that the feats of strength that I achieve are cheating because I used a belt to brace my core. In a lot of sports, we use the best equipment out there, and obviously we regulate it. So I think that the World Athletic Commission putting a cap on how thick the midsole can be, how many carbon fiber plates there can be, I think that's where we're going to see regulation. But do I think that the Vaporfly itself is a cheat? No, absolutely not. I think that to say it's a cheat is a cop-out. And you know what? It's a shoe that is accessible to people. Whether or not you want to spend that money or not is a different story, but it is accessible to the market.
I agree with Nate. I think essentially you cannot cheat by using this shoe. You're not cheating by using this shoe because you still have to put in the same amount of work to run a marathon. It's not like I can show up tomorrow without any training, put on this shoe and run my personal best. I still need to put in the same work I would before any other race in order to achieve the results. I think the best comparable to this is either to swimming, where they used the skin suits for a few years, or to the golf ball. I saw a stat the other day that said Tiger Woods, back in his heyday, was hitting the golf ball shorter than he is now, and he's an old man with a fused back. So, so if that doesn't say that other sports are evolving, that's just what this is. It's technological innovation, and we're doing that in all other aspects of life and sports. So why not do it in running? I think in terms of the Olympics, which is really where the big controversy is and getting everyone on the same playing field amongst Saucony athletes and Nike athletes, that's coming with the World Athletics regulations, as you mentioned. Essentially all athletes and all companies are going to be able to get their shoes out in time for race weekend in Ottawa and for the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. So there shouldn't be any shoe controversy there. And as far as the world record, which is 2:01, the exact shoe was used to run in it, and I see no issue with that record.
Yeah, like remember that it's not all of a sudden like a middle of the pack guy is putting on this shoe and then breaking the world record. Yeah. We're talking about the people that were always at the top, again, efficient with their energy, efficient with their technique, and then this is the little bit to bump them over. Even like, again, let's use strongman as an example too. That's like saying that Eddie Hall's like 1,100 pound deadlift doesn't count because he used straps, which is just silly, because I'd like to see anybody hold 1,100 pounds with their bare hands without some kind of support. Sometimes you just gotta let technology kind of play out, and we can see some really, really fun and crazy things happen as a result.
Absolutely.